So today I think we're going to talk about nut drivers. So it seems like every time I bring up nut drivers, there's a group of people that seem to get triggered by that, and I don't really know why, but I probably get more comments on nut drivers than I do on anything else on this channel. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to show you where I use nut drivers. I'll play devil's advocate and see if there's a better tool to use for this application. So what you're looking here is the underside of a pinball machine. This is one that hasn't been really used in probably over 10 years, so I'm going through it, making sure all these screws are tight, because it was in a damp location for a long time, so I want to make sure there's nothing rusted or getting ready to break off. This is the underside of what they call the playfield, the playing surface. It's a piece of plywood, essentially. Everything here is screwed in with a wood screw. And if you notice, most of these are just 1/4 inch hex heads on them. Sometimes you'll see a slotted in there, a combination slotted. Very rarely you'll see a Phillips. And then the other thing you also see is some lock nuts extruding from the side, like I show up here. So this is the application where I definitely think the nut drivers are the best tool, because there's a lot of cases where you got to get way down in there. You see these black ones right here. So this is the perfect application for a nut driver because it's low torque, and I really wouldn't want to use any power tools in here for this because it's so easy to just strip that right out, because remember, it is being screwed into wood. So what's the alternative tool to a nut driver for this application? One thing you could do is get one of these, what they call a spinner, and you can get in there and do the kind of the same thing. But I find that the handles on these are not typically as long as you would get with a nut driver. I'm sure I could find one that has a longer handle, but it's pretty much the same reason why you don't use interchangeable screwdriver bits for everything. It's just easier. So the other alternative would be to get a ratchet with a really long extension on it. I feel like I have the same issue here. I don't want to over torque it. I just don't get enough of a good feeling on what I'm screwing in. So the other thing is, when you get a lot of sizes like you have here, I mean, a lot of these are 1/4 inch, but there's some 11/32, there's some 3/16 hex nuts in there. There's probably at least 3 or 4 different sizes. Most people don't have more than one of these spinners, so you're going to have to end up keep changing the socket on here every time you want to change. And that really just makes it easier just to have a set of these where you can just go in there and tweak it as you need to. It's pretty much the same reason why you don't use those, removable bit screwdrivers when you have to do a lot of different fastener types in one job. You just grab the screwdrivers you need and switch between them. So unless I'm missing something here, it seems to me the nut driver is the best tool for this job. The way I look at it, if they're still making it, if you could still buy this new, then there's still people using it and there's still a demand. A company wouldn't sell a tool that nobody buys. So I understand that certain lines of work, you may never need a nut driver. You may never run into a case where you actually need a low torque application. Some people have mentioned, hose clamps is a place where they use nut drivers. I don't really deal with those too much, but I could see that. So I'm not really sure why there's such a strong opinion on nut drivers. I'm guessing some people had some bad experiences. Maybe they stripped out a head or something using a nut driver. But I mean, using these Vero ones, I've never run into a case where I needed more torque. I used to have a real cheap set that I used to use for this, where I had to put a pair of pliers on here and actually use that to twist it. I've never run into that with these Vero ones, because the handles seem like they provide you a little bit more torque. Anybody who works on coin op stuff is really a profession I would see that you would utilize a nut driver set. So one of the necessities of a nut driver is you run into situations like this, where you get a very long bolt with a nut on the end. So that right there is a 5/16. As you can see, with this particular socket, it's going to bottom out. Yeah, you could use a spanner like this, but you'd be here, it seems like forever to back that all the way out. So you could also get a long form socket on there if you have them, but many people don't even have that style socket. So luckily these nut drivers have these hollow shafts, which are specifically designed for these instances. So you can see there. So if you're wondering why there's 2 transformers in here, For those that are into this kind of thing, this machine was in Finland at one time, so they actually added a separate 220 to 110 transformer, which is kind of odd because I thought you could rewire this one to do 220, but that's just the way they did it, I guess. So I'm just taking this out because it's redundant. It's not needed. All right, guys, well, I think that's going to wrap it up for this one. Hopefully you guys enjoyed that, and I'll catch you guys next time.